Good morning, everyone. It is December 24th, and this is Nadex Morning Analysis. And it is the day before Christmas and all through the house. So this is our Christmas special. Uh, Nadex is open for a half day today. We close at 1:30 Eastern. So let's because we've only got about 4.5 hours in the market, and it'll be 4 hours once the U.S. equities open in a half hour. Let's go ahead and get into it. Before I start, my name is Todd Rich. I'm with Nadex. With me is Brian Caprice from Keep Trading Simple, as well as Jen from
Yep,
Keep
Jen.
Trading Simple.
She literally climbed herself out of bed. Was like, it's webinar time. I need to go. So
I love it.
she's open today. I feel like she's getting in a routine now. She's going to be the first 3-year-old that starts streaming. So it's just
you know what?
it's unfortunate. We had her hair in like a bun last night and everything. She looked all crazy, and then today she woke up and was like, "All right, I'm ready to go, Dad." And it's like, "Nope, Daddy's lap." I was like, "Oh, okay. I guess we're streaming with Daddy today." So,
I love it. Hey, you know what?
she's ready.
She's always welcome, and she definitely beautifies our morning.
I know, right? It's two
analysis.
old guys and the young
And the
one.
next generation.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Before we get going, I do need to share this disclaimer that trading involves risk, and all trading decisions you make are solely your responsibility and at your own risk. Lastly, and this is really important, this is an educational session. Please do not construe anything that Brian or I say as a buy or sell recommendation. This is just for your education purposes only. So I think for today,
Yeah, it's pretty slow. I mean, we kind of expected this. I mean, I remember a couple days ago we showed that I guess it was a news release or something from the UK, basically saying that all the employees were told to take their laptops home to be ready for some type of a Brexit deal. That there's going to be no break and holidays this year because of Brexit. The only thing we're right now, and again, looking at the currency space, because again, that is the largest, the largest arena in the world. You can see that there's really nothing. Euros moved 8 pips in 24 hours. Yen 17 now. Dollar Swiss 1. The only thing moving here is the pairs associated with the pound. And although, and again, scrolling down to the hottest news, you can see it's basically just all UK Brexit. Now, although it's not signed yet, I mean, 2 hours ago, Johnson's government was saying, hey, listen, we won. Right, we won, and I'm not sure how they. I'm not sure how they figured this out, but this is what they're touting here in their negotiations. That hey, we had 28 wins, the EU only had 11, and there was 26 areas where we had compromised. I was like, it's not signed yet. You guys are going on a victory lap. I'm like, this is probably not the way that you want to do it, but. I mean, what do I know, right? I mean, who am I? But yeah, so Johnson is already going back, and again, a lot of people say it has to do with kind of getting that support from the re-election, or getting from the election,
right?
And why it was put into power in the first place. And again, the fisheries have popped up. That's one of my students, one of my oldest students, actually, not by age, but he's been with me for a number of years. He was making a joke yesterday because we were talking about the fisheries is basically discussing an area of 6 to 12, miles total. So the entire world is held up for Brexit for 6 miles of basically of coastline. And he's like, what kind of bodies are buried over there? I was like, I don't know. I don't think J. Edgar Hoover is over in the UK, but who knows? It's
Maybe
a big deal for those 6 to, yeah, right, those 6 to 8 miles. But for the most part, again, that's the only movement we're seeing. Stimulus is basically dead at this point. Not dead as in, it's not coming, but we're not hearing anything. Everybody's home. The one, kind of jumping into charts just to kind of keep this as simple as possible today. The area we talked about yesterday was this 140.27 level. And you can see we did take a bounce off of it. And I drew a pattern and said, hey, I wouldn't be surprised if we're able to push up into there. I mean, if there's a no-deal Brexit, that would have been an absolutely great place to take a short from. But as you can see, price not only touched it, right here is where we were yesterday. It kind of went down and stabilized, and it's like, yep, it's going to break. And it kind of went up and stabilized again. And we drew this pattern saying, if we can break through this level and pull back before the approval, it could be a kind of a launching point to go higher. Now, we're kind of seeing that right now. Brexit is not really in. I would have liked if this would have happened, I don't know, 6 hours ago. It would have been better for the UK Open. Unfortunately, there's only about 3 hours left in the European markets, and then all those traders are out for for Christmas Eve. So
right.
We're kind of running out of time on a purely technical-based setup. this is what I was talking about. A break above the, again, we stabilized in, which is a telltale sign we're going to break. It broke above, it stabilized, it pulled back. It gave me the white space that I absolutely love, that Harry Potter kind of confirmation entry we talked about. And now it's kind of pushing higher. Is it something that we want to continue to hold through the rest of the year? With Nadex, obviously, we're not going to be holding anything over the weekend. I think the deal will get done. The question is, at this point with the lower volume, with the time left, are we going to have enough time to really launch ourselves back up into the 143 level by the end of 2020? I mean, there's 6 days left, 7 days left.
Right.
Could we use this as a target for next week? Sure. But this was that pattern that I was looking for. And again, just an educational bit here. I mean, this is the pattern that happens all the time when we have areas of buyers and sellers, and it punched through, it based, and it pulled back. I mean, this is the pattern that we drew, and it's starting to come to fruition. And Brexit is officially not done yet. So,
well, although we're expecting it, let's just take a quick look over at the Nadex platform. Now, as you mentioned, you're right. European hours only got a few of them left. Interestingly enough, only got a few left here in the U.S. as well. So this might be something that you want to keep an eye on for Sunday evening, although by then it could be over. But for today, if you're interested, I mean, we do have our daily binary options. There's 4 hours to go. There is, there's. I mean, you can see there's not. They're not expecting much volatility, but there's a binary in here where if I guess you just got to make a determination. What is it that you're looking to do? Do you want to do something and take a shot for the next few hours? There might be an opportunity in here.
Yeah, and this morning is the perfect time as well. I mean, I know I say this, I'm like a broken record here. Today, because everything is ending a bit earlier, again, I would look over into the shorter duration binaries if you're looking to play anything this morning. The reason why is because the shorter duration binaries, the 2 hours, they had that smaller strike width. So again, instead of taking the regular daily size ones, the larger ones, you can always jump over into the 2 hours to be able to play these and have less kind of movement needed to be able to put you in, obviously, at the money or in the money, or depending on how you set those positions up. So again, it's just one of those things that you got to kind of use what you have. And again, we know there's going to be, it could be a fast and furious morning, and at noon it just could, just completely, go out on us. So worst thing you want to do is get into something assuming that, we're going to have a lot of movement, when you could have played something in the same duration that you only needed a smaller strike with.
Right. So, and there you go. And I actually just put that up. Notice that these choices. There's only 2 hours to go until settlement. So you're right. It's not just about picking the right market. It's also looking at, it's fine tuning it with the time frame as well. So there are some 2 hour binaries that are still out there, as well as the 4 hour when the week ends. All right, I want to keep moving along. Sure. I'm thinking it's Christmas. Let's do something shiny. You want to take a quick?
Yeah, we could talk about gold. Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's not much to talk about on the indices front. We mentioned it yesterday. We were high. We expected things to go down. They all went down, and now they're just kind of just completely flat. Super, super low, more than normal. And like I said, with the senators and everybody are home, they're celebrating Christmas at this point. So I just don't see any headlines today that are like, hey, guess what, guys? Christmas Eve, guess what? Stimulus is here. I don't have a very high confidence that it is happening, so I don't expect much movement there. But gold, we had talked about a level yesterday, and here, I'll put it back so you guys can see it. Right there. There's a level we mentioned yesterday. So yesterday we were sitting right here, and I mentioned, hey, listen, we've had a strong emotional move up into a level where we saw previous sellers. And you guys can see, it hit its 1 to 3, not only once here, but it hit a second time here, coming back down again. I would just show a bit of caution. Again, this is in kind of that intraday kind of middle range here. Move this over just a little bit so you guys can see kind of where current price is with it. But again, it's an important level to understand. Sellers have really, this 1881-ish area, again, over here, we put nice sells. We reestablished the new level. Again, sell again. It's a level that gold is obviously having a problem with. Thus far, stimulus has done nothing to be able to punch through it. It's set up a number of different opportunities short to the downside. And again, with lack of any additional stimulus out there, and again, one thing that we are hearing is about other areas in the coronavirus. I mean, it doesn't care that it's Christmas Eve. We are hearing those, and talking about additional lockdowns. Again, that does not go well for inflation and gold. So, it's an area to keep on your radar. I don't know today if it's really going to give us much of a setup, It would have to move about $4, and we'll kind of see. There may be a little bit of an opening burst as traders come online in 20 minutes, but for the most part, I still think if we can get back up into that 1875-ish to 1880, I don't know, 83, I think it's still an area where we'd be looking to get short. But for next week, a lot can happen Friday. I don't know that there'll be any statements, but a lot can happen Friday and then into early next week. I still do think they're trying to get a deal in before the end of the year. I don't know, maybe for government tax purposes, right? But right. I still think they're trying to get one snuck in before the end of the year. I know if they had approved it last week, the goal was to get checks out on the 20th, or start sending the electronic checks out on the 28th. I don't think that's possible anymore at this point. So I don't know, but I'm still keeping on my radar this 1896 and the 1847. But right now, short-term intraday stuff, 1881, and again, this 1878 is where this new level was actually formed up on the side, the proximal side here for the downside.
Yep. So I think gold and even oil to a certain degree. Let's keep an eye on that over the weekend.
Yeah, oil had a pop, based off of yesterday. Bad news for oil, and yet the price went up. So just goes to show you that psychology is alive and well in that market.
So I mean, both of those though align very much with stimulus talks. Is it going to do anything to the economy? Is it going to do anything for inflation?
Yeah.
And you would see movements in those markets. So teeing something up for something to think about over the weekend, going into Sunday night, because we will be back. I mean, we're open all next week, and Brian and I'll be back, and we'll start looking at those for next week. The last thing I wanted to talk about, because Brian mentioned it quickly, is the equity markets are flat. We're probably not, we're not expecting to see a lot of movement. The U.S. equities open here in just over 15 minutes, and we did do a day trading summit, education summit, a day trading boot camp last week. If you haven't caught those, you can catch those videos, those recordings on the Nadex YouTube channel. But my colleague Dan Cook did talk about how you can leverage Nadex products for both volatile markets or non-volatile markets. And I just wanted to kind of show an example of that. Again, this is not a trade recommendation, but just to really emphasize that example. Here we are in a market where, if we think this thing's going to go sideways for the next 4 hours and really not do much of anything, this is the S&P 500 on a 10-minute chart. How could you play this for something where you think, listen, I don't think this thing's going to move anywhere. I think we're going to go sharply sideways. And the way to do that is to trade the wings, to trade two binary options, and it's a strategy. If I were to sell this upside one, and let's just, and this again, example, if I were to sell an upside one at 30, I could potentially make $30. All right, let's just hold off on the max loss for a second. My max profit if I sell this up here at 30 is I can make $30. If I were to buy the one down below for 70, the most I can make would be $30. So by buying the downside one and selling the upside one, if I buy it at 70 and sell this one up here at 30, the most I can make is $60. The most I can make is $60. Now, the interesting thing is both of those can't be false. If it goes up, the one up here is going to go to 100. If it goes down, the one down here will go to 0. But one of them would be a winner and one of them would be a loser if it breaks outside of this range. So what I've done by selling the upside and buying the downside, I could potentially make 60 if it does absolutely nothing. If it stays in here, my potential profit would be 60. If it breaks out of that range, something happens and it spikes, I could only, because both of them can't be false, I could only lose 40. So net 40, because one of them would go to 100, one would go to 100, one would go to 0. So I could potentially make 60. I could potentially lose 40. All right, and you have to do them in equal numbers. I'm assuming you just do one of each. That's how you play a sideways market. Where, all right, I don't think anything's going to happen. I would sell the upside, I would buy the downside, I could potentially make 60, and if it breaks out, I'm going to lose on one of them, I'm going to win on one of them, and I would net lose $40. So if it breaks out of the range, that's it. You're You're risking 40 to potentially make 60 if it stays sideways. That's the strategy that Dan taught. If you didn't catch that recording, I would recommend that you take a look on that. It is on our YouTube channel. With that, Brian, I was going to ask, is there anything else that we want to share with anyone before we wish everyone who's celebrating a Merry Christmas?
No, I would just say, I mean, just along with what you just gave, it's actually a strategy that I teach as well. My students know it. I call it Nadex butterflies. It's not just something you guys can only do on Christmas Eve. As I mentioned, again, the lower term binaries. That same student I just mentioned of mine, I want to give him props. He's kind of great. He's taken it beyond what my teaching has been, and he has a strategy now that on Fridays every week he trades this during the lunchtime hour because it just goes flat on the lunchtime hour. And he's like clockwork every week. He's like, I got another one, and he uses 20-minute binaries. So again, it's not just a strategy. Again, if you haven't watched it, go back to YouTube, look through some of those old videos, the strategy videos. There's some great stuff out there. And again, give yourself a gift of Christmas of education. So, that's all I have for today. Like I said, I think it's going to be slower, but I love little strategies like this.
Yep. So there we go. A little nugget of education. Remember, that was just an educational example, but how you can play a slow sideways market in different time frames. With that, I really do. I want to wish everyone who's celebrating a Merry Christmas. Hope everyone stays safe out there.
Mm-hmm.
We've got the vaccine is on the way. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. I know we can all get through this together. Brian and I will be back next week, Monday through Thursday. Friday, of course, we won't for the new year. And
it's weird. It's 2021, right?
We got 2021 coming. If you got any questions for Nadex, please email us, customerservice@nadex.com. If you got any questions for Brian, you can email him at support@keeptradingsimple.com. Brian, you want to say anything as we head
everybody have a great, safe holiday. Like I said, enjoy the time with family. Be cautious with it, and we'll see you guys next week.
Excellent. All right, everyone. We'll catch you again on Monday. Enjoy the holiday. Good luck in the markets.